There's a huge high-stakes battle happening in the world of finance right now, but it's not on the trading floor. It's hidden away in server rooms. It's a fight over technology that's both the absolute foundation of our banking system and its single biggest weakness. Today, we're diving deep into this core modernization dilemma. So let's get right to it. You pull out your phone, you tap on your banking app, right? And it's sleek, it's fast, it feels totally up to date. But what if I told you the engine running the whole show behind that shiny screen is basically a piece of database history? We're talking technology that could be 40, sometimes even 50 years old. This crazy contrast is really at the heart of our whole conversation. And that gets us to the most important and yet almost completely invisible part of every single bank, its hidden heart. Now, this heart is called the core banking system. And yeah, we're often talking about mainframe technology that's been chugging along reliably since the 1980s. These are giant machines built to process millions of transactions with, bulletproof reliability. This isn't just some old server collecting dust. Think of it as the bank's central nervous system. Every deposit, every withdrawal, every loan, it all runs through this core. It's the absolute bedrock of data that makes the bank, a bank. But here's the twist. That amazing reliability, that incredible history, it's now the source of a massive, massive problem for these institutions. It's created what everyone in the industry just calls the core dilemma. So banks are basically staring down three potential paths forward. And to be honest, none of them are a walk in the park. They can try to replace the whole thing, a huge all-or-nothing gamble. They can try to rebuild it, one little piece at a time, which is just painstakingly slow. Or they can wrap it, which is kind of like putting a modern case on an old phone. And every single one of these choices is just loaded with risk. So this is the billion-dollar question that every bank CEO and chief technology officer is losing sleep over. Do you replace, rebuild, or wrap? Let's actually break down what these choices really mean. Okay, just look at this table. It lays out the brutal trade-offs perfectly. Look at replace up top. Yeah, you get high flexibility, which is great, but then slide over to the risk column. It says very high. We're talking catastrophic potential. Now jump down to wrap. It's fast, the risk is low, but your flexibility is also low, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. And rebuild, sitting there in the middle, it's the slowest of all. You can see right here why they're trapped. It's an impossible strategic choice. Let's dig into that replace strategy a little more. I mean, their appeal is so obvious, right? You get a totally clean slate, a modern system that's ready for the future. But the downside, it is absolutely terrifying. One tiny mistake during the switchover could cause massive outages, you could lose customer data, and you'd have financial regulators breathing down your neck instantly. It is the very definition of a high-stakes, career-ending bet. Okay, so what about rebuilding? It sounds safer, doesn't it? You just make small, gradual changes over time. The problem is, this can take years. We're talking maybe even a decade to finish. Plus, you need this super specialized group of engineers who actually understand these ancient mainframe systems, and most of them are retiring. It's just this incredibly slow, agonizingly complex process. And that brings us to wrap. This one's gotten really popular. You know why? Because it's the fastest way to get that slick, modern app out to your customers. But, and this is a huge but, you haven't actually fixed the real problem. Underneath that shiny new layer, the old, clunky, limited database is still running the show. It puts a hard ceiling on what you can actually innovate. So how is this all playing out in the real world? Well, we're seeing a few different tactics. Some banks are doing greenfield builds, where they literally start a whole new digital bank from scratch, hoping to move customers over later. Others are trying coexistence, this painfully complicated dance where they run the old and new systems at the same time. And honestly, a lot of them are just practicing strategic delay. They're just paralyzed, terrified of the cost and the risk of getting it wrong. Because here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. This challenge, it's about so much more than just the technology. To really pull this off, you need a complete cultural shift inside the bank. You can't just buy new software. It means hiring people with totally new skills, like cloud engineers instead of mainframe experts. It means building new kinds of partnerships with tech companies. And maybe most importantly, it forces a whole new way of thinking about data, about risk, and about being able to move fast. You have to go from this old fortress mentality to being open and agile. So after all of this high-stakes drama, where does it leave the world of banking? Well, for the ones who can actually figure this out, the future looks very, very bright. I have never heard a better way to describe this entire process than this quote. Changing the core is like a heart transplant while the patient is awake. It's just perfect. It is that delicate, it is that risky, and it is absolutely that vital for survival. But here's the final thought. It's a terrifying operation, for sure, but it's one that every single bank has to face sooner or later. And for the ones that manage to get through this incredible challenge, the reward is a total transformation. For them, the future is completely wide open. So let's end with this. Right now, banking is on the operating table, getting its heart transplant. But think about it. Which industry, running on its own piece of aging database history, is going to be next? Airlines? Insurance? Government? That's a question for another day.